It looks like Texas Democrats may be about to return to Texas after having fled over the course of the last 10 or so days to block Texas Republicans from having a quorum that they would need to move on a redistricting map. I'm reading right now from a Fox News report that says Texas House Democrats have reportedly confirmed they intend to return to their state after fleeing in an attempt to halt legislative proceedings, which included GOP attempts to redraw congressional districts in the state. Multiple sources confirmed to ABC 13 Houston on Tuesday that the absent House Democrats will return to the Lone Star State after feeling like they accomplished their mission of killing the special legislative session called by Republicans to pass redistricting legislation. Because then, as the story goes on to say, the special session expires next Tuesday. But the outlet, according to Fox, reported the exact time of the Democrats' return to the Capitol in Austin is not clear. And news, as Fox says, of their imminent return comes on the same day that Texas Senate Republicans were able to get the new congressional maps approved. So that just happened. And now that has to go over to the House before Greg Abbott, who is a Republican, can actually sign the bill. Now, there were indications from Lieutenant Governor Patrick and the House Speaker that they were going to adjourn the special session on Friday if Democrats had not returned by Friday. So they're also, we've covered here, there were calls for them to be arrested, for the FBI to investigate them, whether or who was funding them and whether that funding scheme was actually legitimate and legal. We're actually going to talk about all of that now with Texas Democratic Representative Ana-María Rodríguez Ramos. She actually represents the 102nd state representative, 102nd House district as a state representative in Texas. She's the chairman of the Texas Legislative Progressive Caucus. To get the full version of this interview, the premium version, undercurrents.tv is where you can get the full premium experience of the show and the full versions of these interviews. Subscribe here, whether it's podcasts or YouTube, and let's bring in Representative Rodríguez Ramos, who did leave the state and is going to talk us through an update about what is happening right now. Representative, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Of course. Now, I know this is a really fluid situation, so I'm curious for an update on what you Democrats are planning. 2 days ago, you said that you were going to hold out as long as you needed. Some local media, I think it's Houston's ABC affiliate, is now reporting that a return is imminent. So do you feel the mission is accomplished, and what can you tell us about your plans to return or your plans to remain outside of the state?
We are still weighing our options, and every option is still on the table. We will have to return at some point. We do understand that, but we are still just having the conversations of when that's gonna actually happen.
Okay, interesting. And as you're talking about those conversations with the context of you saying you want to hold out as long as you need, what does that look like? I mean, what are the sort of factors that would make you guys say we have held out as long as we needed to? What are those conversations sort of centered around?
Well, so we understand it's the killing of the first session, which is what we have talked about since day one, which means the session, it lasts for 30 days. And so the special session. So our goal was to sit out this first special session and bring awareness and stop as much as we can these maps and listen to the people. So what the governor has announced that sine die, which is the last day of the special session, is going to be on Friday. Now, is that true or not? We don't know until Friday. He also did announce that he will have another special session after that. So he could announce it within an hour. And so that's what the conversation center around, whether if in fact it's true that he will sine die on Friday. There is a big school of thought that we that's not the day that we want to return. Some people do. I mean, there's just different conversations. And so that's what we're exploring right now. What does that mean? We accomplished our goal, but what else do we need to do? What else? What does that mean for everybody? And so that's what we're centering the conversations about.
And tell us a little bit about what it's been like, to the extent that you're willing to tell us what it's been like for you on a daily basis outside of the state. Basically what you're doing, if you're willing to say where you are, what's been up as you've been outside of the state advocating for your position on this?
Oh, well, we have been working really hard, of course, raising national awareness about this, talking to other states. We met with the Indiana delegation yesterday. I know they're trying to do that in Indiana. And so understanding and raising national awareness of how the gerrymandering, redistricting, how it affects communities, but also the impact it's going to make on people economically, right? So we've been really busy. Everybody here, all hands on deck, have been working really hard to raise national awareness and to get other blue state governments or blue states to join us. But the personal toll is also something that's that is part of this sacrifice that everybody is making in staying away from their families this long. It is really challenging. I mean, several of us missed. Yesterday was the first day of school for many of our children. My little 5-year-old's first day of school was yesterday, and I missed it. I wasn't there to be with him. People are missing their children's birthdays. I mean, it's a huge sacrifice, but we all understand this is larger than us. Allowing the president to dictate to states that the voters that they are picking, right? That's a struggle. It's not American. It's not democracy, right? And so that I think has been the most eye-opening for people across the country. People do not want their politicians to pick their voters, and this is what this is about. And so we understand that staying away from our families means bringing national awareness about what this issue is, and it's daily sacrifices everybody is making, but we're willing to make those sacrifices so that people understand that this is not just a Texas issue. It's an issue. It's a nationwide issue, right? But beyond that, it's also globally, right? Because this administration has done things that are very outside of the norm, and many will argue the negative implications worldwide are things that we'll not be able to undo easily. Building those allied relationships with different countries, what he is undoing, it's going to take us generations to fix. And so it is beyond us, and it's a daunting task, to be honest with you.
In AG Paxton and your Republican colleagues have said, it's not a sacrifice. Their charge is that this is, Beto O'Rourke bankrolling, powered by people bankrolling. They have essentially framed it as like vacations out of state, and have said that you have abandoned your office. You and your fellow Democrats have abandoned your offices as state representatives. So let's start with the first point here. You say sacrifice, they say bribery from Powered for the People. How do you respond to that? What can you tell us about how you're affording to live out of state? Who's covering the bills and all of that?
Well, I think it's just comical to say it's bribery. I mean, this is a man who was impeached for that very same reason, and he's supporting a president who, I mean, come on, it's just comical coming from these people. We are not being funded by Beto O'Rourke, and to be honest with you, I'm not in any of those conversations, so I don't know what the hell he's talking about. And it is an absolute sacrifice, and we are absolutely doing our job. And so that's the difference. They don't understand that they work for the people. Paxton, Abbott, they think they work for Trump, and they're taking orders from Trump. And when Trump called and said, "Give me this 5 seats," they said, "Let's do it." Something that we don't do in Texas, mid-decade redistricting. They jumped. When Trump said jump. This is a man who also has been impeached, who has criminal indictments. I mean, this is who they're following. They didn't listen. They completely ignored the thousands and thousands of people who came and testified from across Texas saying, we don't want redistricting. Stop this. Do not do this. In fact, they didn't even know the maps. The Republicans who proposed to advance the redistricting hadn't even seen the map, nor did they show it to the people, except like one day before they wanted to vote on it. And so, I asked a couple of my Republican colleagues, where are these maps? Why are y'all pushing redistricting when y'all haven't even showed us any maps? And several of my Republican colleagues said, we haven't seen them either. They're coming from DC. And so that tells you a lot. They're not working for Texans. They're not working for the people. And when you look at the maps, it's very obvious who they're working for, who Paxton is really working for, and the way that they are using and abusing their positions to come after us when we have not committed any crimes. We are doing what our people have asked us to do. So I think it's just comical, any allegations coming from some criminal like Paxton or Trump or, even Abbott. It's ridiculous.
I'm really curious about how you feel your district has responded to all of this, because I'll just say, like, as somebody on the right, I see a lot of the sort of early Tea Party years in what Democrats are experiencing right now. It reminds me of something Beto said recently, actually. He said, "Who cares about the effing rules right now? Win some effing power." And it seems to me that Democrats are starting to wake up to how angry the base is about how the party has governed over the last decade plus, especially in the Trump era. So what response have you gotten from people in your district?
The people in my district are completely supportive, but you're absolutely right. It is very it's very similar to that, the early Tea Party movement. In fact, I am the chair of the Texas Legislative Progressive Caucus, and the way I vote, and a lot of our extreme our Tea Party, or they're not called the Tea Party, I don't know what, the Freedom Caucus or what have you. Many times we're on the same side of an issue for completely different reasons, but we are aligned in that, screw the establishment, the institution. They're not representative of the people. And so, our extreme right wing group feels that way, and then I feel that way with a couple of my colleagues. And so the resistance is there, whether you're on the left or the right, and many times we're on the same side of this. So I have received a lot of support from my community. My citizens, my constituents wanted us to fight back. This is exactly what they asked for. So it is the groundswell of the people, the grassroots of our community saying the same thing that the Tea Party people said within their party. We have to push back. We have to fight back. Although we're completely opposite in terms of why, right? Philosophically, we disagree on those parts of it, but that is where we are unified, and that the institution, the establishment needs to change, and that is part of this, this movement that we have started.
What's so wild is my progressive friends felt like this 10 years ago and have sort of been stewing and very frustrated that the party hasn't listened. Why do you think it's suddenly changing around right now?
I felt that way 10 years ago, too. In fact, I argue with my Democratic colleagues probably more than I do with my Republican colleagues, because the expectation, your progressive friends, that's how we feel. And so it's why it's taken so long. I don't know, other than, and this is just my opinion, Democrats are just kind of, we are a big tent, and we value everybody's opinion and identity, and we value all of the differences. It's taking longer to give everyone that space to feel valued. But at the same time, I think now it's just, okay, let's get back to work. Like, it's important to be all inclusive. It's important to fight for all the issues that we believe in terms of bringing in everybody under this big tent umbrella. But we have to come back to where we're at. It's economic issues. It's what feeds my family, what feeds yours, what hurts my family hurts yours. If I don't have health care, my hospital closes, whether you're Republican or Democrat, so does yours. And, babies, when we're having babies, it doesn't matter what party we're from. We all need that prenatal, postnatal care. We all need to feed our children. So I think the progressive part of this movement has brought us back to where we need to be talking about is those economic issues. And yes, we can be all inclusive and we can support everybody else, but we need to stay focused on what we're all in this together. And I think that is where finally the fight is coming back, because with Trump's economic agenda and the failure that's happening right now, I mean, his taxes are hurting families. I mean, I went before and a couple of weeks ago and bought school clothes for my baby, and we're looking at the prices, like, what's going on? The gallon of milk, the cereal, like, everybody's getting hurt by this, and it's just starting. And so unfortunately, it's taken our party a while to get there, but we're here and we're finally fighting back.
It's super interesting, especially in Texas, which is one of these battlegrounds where Republicans have made gains with some Black voters and some Latino voters, like Rio Grande Valley area. And I wanted to ask you about the implication, or I guess it's the argument that you've made, that there's a racist element to the redistricting. Because there are also, Black and Latino members of the Republican Party in Texas, and then some of them are your colleagues in the legislature. So tell us a little bit about that. Do you think that it's an overtly racist effort in the redistricting that would, kick Jasmine Crockett's district into a different version of the district, basically? Do you think that's intentional? Do you think it's some of the members, or is it all of them? Tell us more about that argument.
It's absolutely intentional. There's no doubt that it's intentional. When you look at the 5 seats that they're looking to redistrict, 4 of those are seats that are African-American held seats, historically African-American held seats. So there is no coincidence that it's absolutely racially motivated. When you look at our Texas population, so when states do redistricting, it's because of the census. Every 10 years you do the census, and then you look at the population, and then the shifts in the lines of who's going to represent what communities and how many people you put in each district. That happens after you get the census. And this past census in 2020, 95% of the growth in Texas per the census was for minority communities. So minority communities, if we were being equitable and we were not being racially motivated in terms of the inequality, if we were being equitable in terms of the growth, we would have 15 at 50, because the population after the census is 40% Hispanic, 40% Anglo, about 15-20% African Americans, and then other, right? So if we were being equitable, we would have 15 seats that were Hispanic, 15 seats that were Anglo, 8 seats that were African American, and 6 seats that would be African American. So that's where we would be at. And that's not what we're doing. In fact, they're wanting to dilute the votes, where the way they drew the lines, for every 1 Anglo voter, you would have 3 Hispanic votes. For every 1 Anglo voter, you'd have 5 African-American votes. So it would be the voice of 5 African-Americans for every 1 Anglo vote, the way they're drawing these maps. So there is no, they can't run from it. Why look at these 4 seats? In fact, in Texas, we have the largest African-American population in the country, the largest African-American population in the country. And they're trying to take away 4 congressional seats. We're already underrepresented in Congress, period, in terms of the minority community who make up the majority of the state. We are already completely underrepresented, and they want to cut that even more. So if you step back and you look at, okay, what voters are they really impacting? The majority of the minority community, which is the largest African-American population in the country, in Texas, the second largest Hispanic population in the country, which is in Texas. They're trying to cut both of those communities' representation at the knees, right? And so I don't think they can run from it at all. And in fact, they can't. Just because you have Hispanic voters and African-American voters in that party doesn't mean they're trying to silence and oppress the voters, those minority voters.
Your colleagues. Why would a Latino Republican or a Black Republican support a racist map? What's your perspective on that?
Power. It's raw, unfiltered, unfettered power. They understand, they vote against their own communities, and then they'll joke on the side, I'm not illegal, so it doesn't affect me, but I do know it affects my workers, but oh well, they'll be fine. But I get this chairmanship, or I had the meetings with these power brokers, or what have you. That is absolutely the core of what it is. And when you look historically, I mean, people will do crazy things just to be close to power, or to feel like they have a little bit of power. And that's absolutely what it is. In Texas, the way the politics is, and this is probably everywhere else, when you have the power, you have the money, right? And then when you have the money, you can get away with whatever you want. And that's really what it is. That's all it's about. It's nothing to do with the people or what the people want in Texas. Has absolutely nothing to do with that. It's all about the power. And that's why you have the African American and Hispanic people. They would much rather be closer to that space than delivering and doing the work of what the people sent them there for.
Well, for the full version of this interview, head on over to undercurrents.tv. That's where you get the full premium experience. And if you want a conservative perspective on this issue, check out our interview with Ryan Gerdusky on the channel from last week as well.